Hello, everyone. Hi, guys, and you're welcome to actually the final episode of this season's MyTake Show. I'm so excited that to have everyone here. We're really excited to to have you in our space, and we look forward to you being a part of today's show. I'm very happy to have my dear friends, my girlfriends, my sister friends join us. I must say, ladies, when we thought about taking this thing out there, we didn't really know that it was going to, have a life of its own as it has. And it's really been a very, very fun experience. And today, I am excited to have one of our sister friends who's also been an avid member of the audience. She's there every week. Join us. So I'm going to let her introduce herself. But before I do that, my name is Adenyke Israel Bolarewa, and I am here on MyTake Chat Show with my girlfriend, starting with our special guest.
Hello, everybody. My name is Buki Ogungbade, and I'm so honored that I'm counted as a girlfriend. I'm honored to be a sassy girl. So I was looking at the intro, I was like, ooh, I've joined the club. I'm so honored to be here today. I'm looking forward to the show. I've been married 21 years. I have two wonderful children, and I'm so blessed that I have people that I can actually call girlfriends. I do not take it for granted. So excited, ladies. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much for being a part of the show. We look forward to engaging with you. And of course, to my beloved other sisters, I'll let everyone introduce themselves.
I'll go first, I guess. Hi, everyone. This is Lola.
Hi, everyone. This is Tutu. Hi, everyone. This is Tosin.
Hello, this is Faye. Hello, everyone.
Hey, good to see you guys as usual. So, most people who may have been joining us in the past know that MyTake is a forum where we let our head down, hang out, is the girlfriend space where we talk about issues that we would normally just chat, have conversations on WhatsApp, chat about it, laugh, get frustrated, argue, whatever the case may be. We decided to bring it to you viewers and to bring this community and say, ladies, let's talk about some of the things going on. And part of our goal is, to have a healthy, wholesome conversation, but to also speak from a place of love and compassion. I believe there's value in women encouraging women, women empowering women. And on today's show, we're going to continue from our last episode, which is addressing the issue of emotional and mental health. This has been an unconventional year. We've all gone through different myriads of emotions, just dealing with so many things that have hit us. 2020 has been an uncommon year. And, last episode was just phenomenal. We had the amazing Toyin Fashosi with us, a mental health therapist, and she was just dropping those nuggets. I mean, Tosin, Lola, what do you guys think? Lola, there were just some things she said. What was one of the favorite things she said last time that you remember?
Hi, Nika. Yeah, and this subject is very important to me because I think that with everything that's been going on with 2020, all the external things coming at us, there's a tendency for us to focus on the external and not so much look internal and see what's going on within us, both mentally and emotionally. And so, we delved into that the last episode, and it was really, really meaningful to me. And one of the things that we concluded on, when we spoke to Tony was, about finding a new balance and adjusting expectations, how important boundaries are, in terms of self-care and letting go of perfection. And most importantly, being kind to ourselves. I just read somewhere that, one of those things they put on Instagram where they say someone needs to hear this, or I'm speaking to someone, practice the 5 love languages on yourself. And that is so important, especially now when so many things are coming at us, at a fast pace. And so that finding new balance and adjusting our expectations was one of the things that really stood out for me.
Amazing.
What stood out for me was when she said the devil is not interested in healing a relationship and God is not interested in your emotional state. So seeking for help based on our African, some of us, the cultural aspect, not wanting to seek for help, not wanting to, go to a psychiatrist or a counselor, someone that would help you walk through your issues. She said that God put those people in place to help the state of relationships. And, it's very important. So that was a big nugget for me, because the stigma or, against getting help, the stigma against seeking for someone that can walk you through your issues. She also talked about how a lot of men are aggressive and they don't understand that they are going through a lot of emotional turmoil, but they just, coin them to being aggressive. So a lot of men don't understand how to work out that dynamic. So she dropped a lot of nuggets, and those were the ones that really stood out for me. God is interested in healing, and he provides the service.
And I think if I can just take it from there, and thank you guys, that's so interesting. I think that's so super important, and I love that concept of apply the love languages to yourself. And more, I find it so evident that people struggle with that. I must say, I mean, I'm sure you guys heard this story, and viewers, thank you to everyone who's already joining. Hi, ladies, thank you for joining. There was a bit of a distressing story that we heard of this week, and what's very distressing for me is that we're in 2020 and we're still talking about issues around gender violence. We talk about taking care of ourselves emotionally and mentally. And Tosi, what you said is so true, that sometimes for men, when they're under a lot of burdens emotionally and mentally, they might not always know how to express it. Now, there's some people that they're so warped that they express theirs with a violent streak. I mean, the story of a woman who went on social media to call out her husband, who is a reporter on Channels Television, because he hit her so badly. She recorded it. I mean, her face was bleeding. She was wounded. She had a small child, his son, who was saying, "I'm so sorry, mommy." And she talked about how her husband would beat her up. And just because she said, "Don't spend money on women," and she now went back to talk about how he would beat her up while she was pregnant. She just had a C-section, not quite, maybe 3 months ago. And she said all of this to shame him, obviously, to call him out. And the next thing we see is the governor of a state and his wife feeling very proud of themselves that they've mediated in this issue by bringing the couple together. Now, I know it might just be the way the angle the television showed it, but I did not see any footage of the husband literally begging his wife, not that that was enough, for forgiveness and speaking from a repentant perspective. Instead, we see the wife saying how she would forgive her husband and work on her marriage. It was quite traumatizing, because a lot of these people go to church on Sundays. A lot of the stories we're hearing are from people that go to church. I'm hearing it increasingly. There is such domestic abuse behind the walls of people that show up in church. So maybe I should ask Buki, what is it about our African society, our culture, that just makes it difficult to really address this concept of abuse and violence as a criminal action? We take it as a devil made me do it instead of this is a crime. How do we really start to address this? And at times I'm tired of being tired. What can we do to lend our voices to this issue?
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. And like you said, we are in 2020. But I think that, ultimately of course, for the viewers that may not be aware, the incident happened in Nigeria. I'm talking now from the Nigerian culture based on Nike's question. Essentially, the culture itself is one that is corrupt. The culture itself is one that is lawless. So first of all, I mean, we see, at least from my perspective, what I see is the only people that get caught up in the justice system, or the only people that are held accountable for the things that they do that are wrong, that are legally wrong, are people that either are poor or don't have the money for the defense, people that do not have people, if you know what I mean. You don't have people to back you up. You never see the average Joe or people that have money or people that have influence being held accountable for anything that they do, whether it's violence or corruption, whatever it is. We are not a culture or a I don't think it's civilization, but we are not a culture that really lends itself to law. So let's start there. But okay, that aside, then you see the whole concept of somebody coming up and saying, oh, we've mediated this, which just looks, at least from all appearances, looks like, look, let's just cover this up, let's just bury it, let's just move on, which is our normal culture. Put your head down in the sand, deal with it, and most times until you die. And then everybody moves on, the husband marries another wife and starts the cycle all over again. So, you see that over and over again. I think it's a combination of multiple things. It's entrenched in us in terms of we females. And you see it even here in the in women that have moved out of Nigeria, but we still have that mindset. Our mindset tells us that, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way God said it should be. No black, no gray or whatever. God hates divorce. God, different things. I don't even know if I want to go and open those kind of worms, but, the different situations that we said, this is the way. And if you don't fit into that box, bury your head in the sand and deal with it. And most times we see that, women are the ones that tend in a domestic violence. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to men, because it does, but women are the ones that it tends to happen to. And like you said, even happens in the church. And, the one thing I say, people say that over and over again, that, yeah, whatever. But 2 Timothy, and I'm going to go to the Bible here, so let's diffuse the whole church thing for a second. But understand this, that in the days there, let me rephrase. But understand this, that in the last days, there will come times of difficulty, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having appearances of godliness, but denying its power. The Bible says, avoid such people. So it's not that, yes, we're bringing it back to the whole mental health thing. There's a lot of things that are going on, and people have seen it over, from generation to generation. The woman was subdued by physical means, financial, emotional abuse. That was how the woman was subdued. So men growing up in Nigerian culture have seen that over and over and over again. They don't know any different in some cases. But you think that, now that we're in 2020, the world is open to anyone that's willing to know and understand. You can enlighten yourself. But you see it, even people, it doesn't matter the amount of money they have or the amount of education that they have, they still do these things. So, it's a big problem, a serious problem. And worse off, we have people, onlookers, that see it and just pass it by, not say anything, or see it and tell you, don't worry, just, maintain, just don't worry, this too shall pass, just stay in there, And of course, with all of COVID, you're sheltered in place, in the one place that is the most dangerous for you.
Exactly.
So what do you do? I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know that I have any answers. My thing is, because different people have different situations. So on a one-on-one basis, it needs to be addressed, but it definitely needs to be addressed. We cannot pass by and not understand the severity of it and not take into consideration the life that is at stake when we ignore it.
Wow, a lot, fantastic.
In terms of the voice to the voiceless, because I saw one of the comments, how do you give a voice to the voiceless? I think this lady started on the right track. For me, I know I have family and friends that say, oh, they don't like cancel culture, but actually I'm a big fan of cancel culture. Why? Because you call out bad behavior. She called out her husband's bad behavior. That's why we know about it. If she kept quiet, we would never have heard of it until maybe he killed her or something. She called him out and we all reacted. The problem was the governor and his wife feeling like they had some using their undue influence to convince her otherwise. And I'm sure she has family members that probably also convinced her to recant. But what we need to do is enlarge those voices when they come out. Also speak up. Some of what we're doing now is also part of the way we should do it. We should make it so that it's a shameful thing. I think this has to be a societal thing. When it becomes a thing that we all react to, we all, don't blame the victim. And I think I looked around, I looked at social media, and I did see a lot less blaming the victim than typical. I think the guy was universally criticized. So I think we're moving in that direction. The thing is, how do we push the envelope? Because as Buki said, in Nigeria, the only people that go end up in jail are those who don't have enough money to get themselves out of it. So it's typically not a society where you really, like, if you say in the US, if there's a law and you break that law, you go to jail. We're very far from there. So I think it has to be a societal thing, and it also has to be a church thing. So I've been thinking about what the point Buki made. God hates divorce. So why is that word, that sentence, that phrase, God hates divorce? Why is that not turned to the men and to say, God hates divorce? So why are you beating your wife? Do you understand? God hates divorce. So why aren't you loving your wife like the Bible says? The Bible commands men to love their wives as Christ loved the church. How does that equate to beating her up? So, I think the shift the focus needs to be on the men, on the
Absolutely.
bad behavior. Forget the woman is a victim, and if she's beaten, she has to leave. The focus should be on the man, not on the woman trying to. So the whole point of the woman coming out to the stage and saying she accepted her husband's apology and she's going to work on her marriage, that was absolute rubbish, absolute nonsense.
Absolutely.
What we needed to hear was from the man what he was going to do to avoid being in this same situation ever again. What kind of counsel was he going to do?
No, what we needed to hear was him in handcuffs.
Yes, but my point is, I feel like the handcuff situation is still far. So me, I'm trying to be pragmatic. Let's even go in. I always say that as Nigerians, let's even aspire to mediocrity. People always wonder when I say that, let's even get to mediocre before we get to best practice. We can't jump from 0 to 100. Let's even get to 50, where we all agree that this man is the perpetrator. You are the one who is in the wrong. And then we can now start saying, should he be imprisoned and all of that, but we are still very far. So that's all.
Honestly, my method is very unconventional. But for people in Nigeria, not people in the US, where people can take laws into their hands, I always advocate for good Samaritans, onlookers, neighbors and family, nice area boys, and beat some guy.
Beating.
I'm very passionate about this. Like, beat him to a stupor. Let him have a taste of what he's dishing out, because this is a coward. He cannot find his own mates, someone he size to beat, and he's pouring his frustration on his helpless wife. So if anybody, neighbors, if they love these women, for starters, in moving towards mediocrity, please help us deal with these men. And then one of the things, churches do, that they will be counseling the people, stay, and it needs to stop. There are areas where, if there's no physical violence, emotional abuse and all of those, you can begin to, try and mediate. But if a woman's life or a man's life is in danger, please remove the victim from that situation. Stop saying, oh, stay, and then family members too. Oh, it's a
yes. Stop sending them back to this man.
Has ever left their husband. You have married him. You have to stay and endure. Endure what? And one thing people fail to realize is the children that are growing up seeing these things, they end up becoming abusers themselves. So for the sake, if a woman says, oh, I want to stay because of my children, then leave because of your children. Leave for safety because of your children.
We can't overemphasize this, and thank you so much, because that particular video was very heartbreaking, because we saw a young boy, and that boy has seen his father hit his mom. And at this point, he knows it's wrong. But at a particular point, there's something about the psychology that unless by God's grace, he really deliberately addresses the trauma, because we don't realize children go through trauma. That boy has gone through trauma, but he can't exercise it. The trauma is in his subconscious. He saw a violent behavior in the home. And that needs to be addressed, because if not, he would grow up replicating that. But let me even just bring this back. Faye said something which is painful, but I agree that, you know what, right now we're still at the point of aspiring to mediocrity. Isn't that even sad? It is very sad that we can say that from the church's perspective. And I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame that we are not leading this on the forefront from that perspective, because that's not what God would want. But I think it's because we have a warped understanding. Because if Jesus Christ and his love for the church is the vision of marriage, if Jesus would never hit his church, even when his church is unfaithful, a husband should never do that. So for a lot of people, let's bring it back to what we can handle. Let's bring it back to the church where we feel we can bring change, because the number of people, whether it's an Anglican church, a Pentecostal church, a Baptist church, the number of people that drive themselves to a place called church is unbelievable. If they get it right, we'll see a change in society. If the number of people that drive there get it right, we will see a dramatic change. So my question, and Tutu, Tosin, I'll probably want to hear you guys, really addressing this. When we're talking about really protecting our emotional and mental health, and I know that this goes beyond just like our African culture anywhere, can we really start talking about being more conscious, or more conscious of this concept of boundaries? And I want to start from dating, courtship, relationships, all the way to marriage, because I feel that people don't either recognize the signs that they are getting into a relationship with an abuser. People feel that just because they are in church, they let their guards down and they just allow any and anybody into their space. People also are not sensitive to know what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, because we have a lot of broken people, a lot of people who are emotionally hurt, mentally hurt, that sit in the pews and they may not hear the right sort of messages. At times, I almost feel as even the messages in some places do not speak to the issue of emotional and mental health. So what are some of the things that we need to start encouraging? Our viewers, thank you so much. I'm loving the comments that's coming through. Keep it coming through. But how can we drive this from our private space? How do we ensure even the next generation, the younger ones, how do they avoid this sort of relationships that tend to lead to emotional and mental abuse? How can you take care of yourself and be empowered to take care of your own self and create boundaries?
Thank you, Nike. So, as Christians, the Bible says, by their fruits you shall know them. And Nike did say something that, many times people let down their guards when they find out someone is a Christian. Honestly, what does that even mean? Just because somebody says they're a Christian, just because they have a title in church, he or she is the head of singles ministry. All of that does not mean anything if you cannot see it in their character. And, if you're in a toxic relationship, friendship, or, some dating, as soon as you begin to see these warning signs, please take a pause. Don't just take a pause. Some of the things I've noticed, some of the signs I would say you should look out for. Number one, control. Someone is there, and it's not just physical abuse. So right now we're talking about physical abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse, just every form of everything that takes away something from you. So control. There are some people that, if you're in a relationship with someone that wants to control everything about you, tries to control who you talk to, who you spend time with. Now that you're in a relationship with him or her, you can't even have friends. The person is always angry, always agitated when they see you talking to someone, texting, or stuff like that, in an unusual way. And some people will try and explain it and say, oh, he or she is just being possessive. No, this is more than being possessive, more than being jealous. This is someone that is trying to take over your life. They are being controlling. You should watch out. These are warning signs you should watch out for. or they have an unexplained rage. You know, they when they're angry, they are breaking things. They are breaking things. They are, just unexplained rage. These are warning signs. They can come back and apologize and say, "Oh, I don't know what got over me." But honestly, begin to watch out for these things. Don't wait until the person hits you, or you can't be yourself around the person. You are a natural extrovert, but because of this person, you have to become an introvert. You're always the one trying to fit in to what they want, into the mold that they want for you. These are, or the unrealistic expectation that they have of you. These are traits of an abusive person. Or you're afraid when you're around them, or they belittle you. They can say it's a joke. They make very, very disrespectful jokes about you. They belittle you. Ordinarily, you're a smart person, but when you're around them, you feel so small. These are just some of the warning signs. They disrespect you. And then you have to take the blame. Even when you know you're right, you take the blame because you just want, to make peace. And this kind of people can be verbally abusive. They can cuss out, just all kinds of things. All of these things are warning signs, or they are just full of drama. I mean, I only like to watch drama on TV, or be the one, be an actress, but these people are just full of drama around you. They make you feel bad. They guilt trip you. They gaslight you. They are very manipulative. These are all warnings, signs of a toxic relationship that you should watch out for. And I'm sure, my friends have other things to add.
All right. Tutu has given us she has given us a laundry list of different things. But I remember very well that Buki and I were talking a few years ago about, a particular situation. And I have, stories for days, whatever, as a counselor. But one thing that, we brought out from that conversation was, that you see these signs and you still walk into it. You make excuses for it. You saw it while you were dating and you make excuses. And you said, "Oh, no, that's not how he is." One thing I just want to add is alienation. He alienates you from your loved ones, from your friends. And he wants you to make him the center of your world. And forgive me if I'm speaking a woman to a man. And I know that there are cases that is vice versa, but we know predominantly, what the statistics are. He just wants you to he wants you to make him the center of your world, to answer to him every single minute. He monitors and tracks everywhere you go. I've seen cases where he's going to look at the gas and the mileage and monitor how far you went. Those are real situations I've had to face with people that we have counseled. One thing I'll say is, when you notice that, who does that person answer to? Who can you, does that person have anyone that he respects and he answers to? Be very leery of that, because we have been faced with many cases of that, whereby the person does not want to listen to anyone. And they don't have any, like they'll say in Yoruba, kologa, doesn't have a boss. It's just about him. If you speak to someone about him, oh my God, even while you're dating, it's a problem. Doesn't want to go for any type of help. Doesn't want to go to your pastor, doesn't want to speak to anyone. You're trying to say, let's get help because you blew out of rage for a certain thing. Let's go and talk to someone. He's like, no, don't tell anyone my business. Be very leery of that. And like Tutu mentioned, he blames you for his actions. He blames you. You are the reason why he blew up. He'll say, I am so sorry, but if you had not done this, I wouldn't have done that. If you had not cooked the fish this way, I wouldn't have flared up. You take the blame of his actions. Emotional abuse. Think about it very well. Another thing I wanted to say is, he's not your cheerleader. Like Tutu mentioned, he gaslights you, but he's really not your cheerleader. Doesn't support your ambitions, doesn't support your dreams, doesn't support anything. It's always about him. Financially, the money must go to him and his ideas and his causes, but you get put to the back burner all the time. And you wanting to be a dutiful wife, like we always say, or be a dutiful girlfriend, whatever it is, you take the back burner and you're like, that's the way it's supposed to work. Be leery of these things before you decide to go into any relationship with anyone that just wants you alienated, wants you to, be monitored as if you were not grown when you met the person. Okay. Basically, so just be very leery of these things. And it is I understand. Well, don't let me say I understand. I'm sorry. I married young. So I wouldn't understand the groans of an older single who wants to get married quickly and all that. But let me tell you something, what we have been dealing with and all the counseling and everything, it is better to stay away than put yourself in a dangerous situation. We have too many instances that people did not take it serious and their lives are gone right now. So please, I would say, pay attention to all these signs that you see and don't belittle them.
Wow.
Sorry,
Wow.
One last thing I wanted to say. He's Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He's so nice outside. Hi, so polite, so beautiful. But then he's the devil when he gets home.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And honestly speaking, I think you guys have just, you've created this amazing profile. And the comments online from our viewers has just been amazing. Thank you for lending your voice to this issue. And please share. If you're on Facebook, please just share this, repost it, so most people can see this, because we know we're speaking to, those who are not yet, married and can recognize these signs. Praise God. Early Christmas present. Believe God that he will bring the right person. Don't even try and say to me, don't even try and say, I'll fix it. Don't even try and say, all this description, let's go and pray. Step away at this point. There's some battles that's not for you. But can I just bring this back to people who are listening, who might say, well, I see this. And honestly speaking, it could be, even in some cases, some women are equally very immature. They present half of the problems. They are not secure in themselves. They want to be like the Joneses. They put their husband, they put their family, they put their children under pressure. Given we've identified the roots of a lot of these issues from our last episode, which was phenomenal, where we really focused on really understanding and taking stock, what are some of the things, that we can do as we start to assess our relationships? 2020 was really a year for us to say, if you're in a marriage, there's a different approach to it. But when we look at our friends, our families, where you identify toxic relationships, it could be on your job, wherever it may be. What are some of the practical tips that people can take to start really assessing this situation and creating a plan to bring change? Because if we don't take care of our mental and emotional health, it will be very damaging. And I think this year was a year that forced most of us to really take a good look at life. We saw how quickly life could be lost. We saw, how what we thought was important was not as important. When push came to shove, it didn't matter, what your wardrobe looked like. You couldn't go anywhere. It didn't matter what kind of job, they said this year, loads of Americans are, they're looking for, food. These are families that would never have thought they'll be driving up on a long line to look for food. So it's been a very humbling year. As we think through this and we go into the new normal, what should we really start to put as a stake in the ground to make sure that we don't find ourselves in a place where emotionally and mentally we are compromised? I don't know, Lola, if I'm explaining myself properly, but I'd love to hear your take on that question.
Yeah, as you've said, Nike, and there's a lot happening right now. 2020 has seen end of long-term friendships. It's seen, there's statistics is showing that there's an increase in children going to ER for unexplained accidents. We've seen a surge in domestic violence cases. These are all statistics showing. Unprecedented requests for divorce in relationships. So COVID has affected, or this period, everything that's happening now has affected relationships. And when we're looking at to assess where we are in our relationships, I think we need to start with ourselves. Internal reflection, self-care, recognizing your triggers, recognizing when you've reached your limits and you need to take a step back. That is very important, because however way we handle ourselves and take care of ourselves, it flows out into our relationship. It flows out into our friendships. It flows out into the way we parent. It flows out into the way we handle ourselves in relationships, in our marriages, in our boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, whatever the case may be. So we need to start with self-care. There's a reason why when you're on the plane, they say put your own mask on first. Make sure that you can breathe before you start focusing on everybody else. So if you find that you're starting to feel edgy, you're short-tempered, you're flaring up quickly, things are irritating you, you're staying in bed just way too long than you need to be staying in bed. You're not motivated to do anything. You're supposed to be up and about doing things, but you can't seem to peel yourself off the couch. Your kids are looking at these things, if you have kids, and they're wondering, And so I really believe that, it starts with your own self. You got to take a step back, assess yourself, and figure out what you need to get yourself to a place of wellness. That's the first thing. And then when you're assessing your relationship, one indicator, there are many indicators, but one indicator is arguments. How you know where you are in your relationship. Has your arguments with whoever it is, whether it's friends, children, loved ones, your parents, your spouse, the frequency, has it increased? Or the reverse, are you walking around on eggshells? You're not addressing issues. He's coming this way, you're going the other way. You're not speaking to each other. How is that? That's one indicator. How you argue is another, the frequency of your arguments, how you argue. So are you finding out that you're just wanting to hurt the other person, or just to go on and belabor a point, and it's all about being right and not about understanding the other person? Where are you? How are you arguing? Are you arguing to hurt? Are you arguing to inflict harm? Or are you arguing to, understand and move on to a better place? And then what are you arguing about? If you find that you're just arguing over the silliest thing, anything is just flaring up, is making you guys lash out at each other. These are all indicators of wellness in your relationship. And be humble enough to take a step back and say, my bad. I'm sorry, let's start over. This is not what I meant. That's how you now take it and move it to the direction it needs to go. So like I said, there are many different things that are ways you can assess it, but that's like a low hanging fruit right there is, how you're communicating.
Thank you so much for that. Now that we hear maybe Faye's thoughts, and then also from Buki. Faye, from a we've had a very interesting conversation, and from interpersonal relationships at work. Faye, I'd love to hear your thoughts, because there's now a lot of pressure on people, and I think there's some feedback coming through. There's a lot of pressure on people because of the whole remote working, to try and be visible. I mean, there's the added pressure, knowingly or unknowingly. When you're in the office, you can spot office politics in a bit, you can quickly pivot. But now I feel there's also that additional pressure coming into people that you don't know what's going on. You don't know how you're being reflected. They said if you don't show, make sure people see you on video so they know you are present. So at other times you want to just look, I've had a rough night. Everybody's trying to manage what's going on, and it has its impact in your personal life. Just from your experience, what are some things also that we can start thinking through from a work-life balance to create emotional and mental health?
I mean, I think in terms of work-life balance, I always say that work-life balance is in your hands. Nobody is going to give you work-life balance. You're going to have to take it. You're going to have to say no to things. You're going to have to prioritize your family over work, and vice versa when you need to. So, I mean, because people ask me, oh, how do you find work-life balance? And I take it where I get it. Where I have opportunities to go do personal things, like in between meetings, I'll go cook, especially now I'm home. I'll go and put something on the fire. And then, sometimes, I have to do the reverse where I'm supposed to be with the kids. I'm quickly checking an email because I have an urgent thing. You have to just take control of your life. Like Lola said, it starts with you. But I think even in terms of work, it's very difficult to figure out the politics right now, like you said, because we are in the virtual world. I think it's important to have the one-on-one sessions. The same way that you would go and have a water cool conversation with your boss. Make sure you're scheduling calls. So it's not just the group Zooms that you're doing. Check in with your boss, check in with your colleagues, so you can have, as much of a one-on-one as possible, so you can take the temperature of the organization that you're in. I think it's more important now than ever to do that. But at the end of the day, I want to go back to something Lola said. You have to go with your own intuition, and when things are off in your relationships, and you need to listen to what and as Christians, we have the Spirit of God, which is telling us that things are out of balance, things are out of whack. And you need to then look into those things. It's the same thing if we go back to the conversation on, when you're courting. When things are out of whack. I mean, in your relationship, I've never counseled somebody who is in a bad situation in their marriage, and they will say, "Oh, I had no idea before we got married." It hardly ever happens. They always say, I kind of knew that this was this and he was like this, but I thought I could handle it. And I always tell people, it will get whatever is happening in your courtship, just multiply it by 100, because you're going to be married, and then the marriage is supposed to be for life. If you cannot take it, keep it moving. I mean, instead of underestimating, exaggerate it, multiply it in your head, and see if you're still okay. So I mean, those are just some things I wanted to just mention.
I love that. I love that. Multiply it is forever. It's so interesting. And I'd love to hear Buki's thoughts I'll use one from a parenting perspective. Buki is rocking this stage right now where, I think even most of the ladies have all experienced that. But from the dynamics of, as families are changing, the composition is changing. You have families that, the pressure is the fact that, they have young children. But for some other people, some of the kids are going off to college. The issues are equally different, because for some people, they're finding out they don't even have that much to say to each other now that there's no child in the house, So again, I would love to hear your perspective, even as we're looking at emotional health. Maybe I should have you speak first to how can we really help our children, with their emotional and mental health. I know we're talking about different, but just maybe in 5 minutes, just when we talk like this, we forget that the kids are going through a pandemic. They've never really experienced this before. Their relationships are different. Their normal is different. And sometimes we adults are still trying to get ourselves together, and we're not even supporting them as we should. What are some signs that would let us know now that a child is struggling, irrespective of their age? And how can we, I'd like to hear your thoughts before, I also get from Tutu and Tosin. What can we do to support kids at this point?
Yeah, so I think essentially, like you said, sometimes we forget that the children themselves are individuals. They have their own minds, they have their own concerns. Unfortunately, too, they have their own fears. And the fears for them is as real to them as your own concerns are real to you. So if you feel like, I went to a period, of course, every parent, there's no handbook. So we live and learn. And, my kids are 18 and almost 17 now. So they're pretty well, and they're at the stage now where, of course, you can't just say just because, go and do it just because, nothing like that. It's intellectual conversation. In fact, I dare say that in my household right now, I am at the bottom of the tier when it comes to having these dialogues, because, they can be charged, and they are also competitive. They are all very competitive. I mean, their approach to life and their approach. Why do you say this? The other day, my son brought up the LGBTQ. What is your take? That was his question. What exactly what is it? What is your take on LGBTQ? I wanted to say, from which angle are you asking? Are you, I wanted to kind of, it's like I want to set up my bias before I respond to the question. But he just wanted to know, what are your thoughts? Where is it coming from? He didn't want the Bible says, whatever. So they are at the point where they are having intellectual conversations. They are not only having intellectual conversations with you, they are having conversations with their peers that they know and they meet on, and they're having conversations with, whether we like it or not, for our kids in this day and age, having conversations with people that are online that they've never met before, that they don't know their backgrounds. You yourself, you don't even know them. You don't know those people's background. You don't know their parents. All the things that we like to do to kind of try to cocoon our children and all of that. They are having this conversation. So how do we set them up in such a way that we allow them to have the conversation and have their own mind and have their own thoughts on, this is my value. This is my value system. First of all, I know I'm loved. It doesn't matter what goes on. And I think one of the important things that we need to instill in our children is that they are loved. Doesn't matter what or how. And even if, I say this thing to them, even me, myself, I may be a bad parent to you, but God is never a bad parent to you. You are loved no matter what. If I fail you or where I fail you, because who knows, I probably sure have in the past and I sure will in the future. But when I do, remember this, that you are loved and your value is not dependent on what anybody says or what anybody does. So I think that's the first stage. Them knowing that and understanding their value helps them. From whatever age they are in, they are loved. Yeah. Period. Doesn't matter what else happens. Then the next stage is, how do you support them? How do you listen to them? That is key. Listening is key. Because sometimes, like how your girlfriends come and they pour out on you, they just want to offload on somebody. So if you are not there for them to offload, they'll go offload to their friends or their peers, and you're not sure what kind of feedback or guidance they will get elsewhere. So encouraging your children so that they are able to come to you with their concerns, able to come to you with their fears, and not belittle the fears. I remember one time I said to I don't know if it was my son or daughter, I said, what are you doing? I mean, it's like, I'm stressed. Was the thing, I'm stressed. I'm like, why are you stressed? What's stressing you out? You are food on the table, you don't have any children, you are feeding, you are not working, why are you stressed? And I got the look of, you don't understand. And for me, it just, the look of, you don't understand, I can't talk to you. So that immediately I had to adjust myself and say, okay. Remember, their concerns are as real to them as your concerns are as real to you. So having that conversation. So what is it? How was your day? What went on? How are your friends? Paying attention to them. In the hustle and bustle of all of this that's going on, and you wanted to still, all the things that we have to do for ourselves as individuals. Our children sometimes, we have to be very, very intentional, and noticing the little changes, slight changes in them, I don't hear you on the phone with your friends anymore. What's going on? Because they may be having issues with their friends, or they may be ostracized, or they may be they may need to have a difficult conversation that they don't know how to have. So just being engaged with them, listening to them, understanding them, I think is key. Just being there for them to hear. It's not easy, I may say, because I don't know if you're all very patient people. I am not particularly patient. I've been working on that since the day I was saved, and I'm still working on it so now. But, being able to be patient in the moment, because sometimes the moment passes and you can't get it back. Yeah. So, just listening to those little triggers, being there for them and knowing them, not pushing them way too much beyond their boundaries. I'm going to put myself out there because for a second, my daughter, when she was doing her essays for schools last year, this girl, all by herself. I won't say I didn't put any pressure on her on that, but she, decided to do all these applications to certain schools that required a lot of work. I read one of her essays, and when I read the essay, I'm thinking to myself, this happened to you, or I'm listening to myself, this is how you think, because you tend to, that period of being engaged in her college application process really opened my eyes some more to who she was and how she was transitioning to be a young woman. I'm thinking to myself, I can't underestimate this girl, or the thought process, how she's thinking, what she's thinking, and her conclusions. So I had to sit down for something why did you do this thing, or why did you act this way, or what are your thoughts, or when she talks about really troubling times that she's had. And I'm thinking to myself, when was this period again? And I'm like, yeah, did I miss that boat? What was I there for her, or wasn't I there for her? So, but we have to be engaged. We cannot, I say to I used to say this to parents when I was doing children's church. Don't leave the church to raise your child. Your church is supposed to aid you. Don't leave the school to raise your child. The school is supposed to aid you. Your society is supposed to aid you. They are not raising your child. You are raising your child, not society, not the church, and not your family.
Very true. And it's like 2020 when everybody had to, when they said, keep your children, they can't come to school. That's when we're like, hey, this child belongs to me for real. Wow, just phenomenal, amazing stuff. Amazing, amazing. I loved all those videos where the parents were like, we're all thanking teachers who say we will never take you for granted. Please just pray. Come and collect this child from us, please. So you're so right. And may God help us. Wow, I can't believe the time has gone. So I'm going to just ask now, as we are preparing for the Christmas season, this is our last episode. I'm just going to go around and say, it's been a phenomenal time with the ladies. This has just been great. We miss our darling Jooms. She couldn't be with us today. Buki, is one of our sisters, and she joined in to fill in for us. So I'm going to go around and ask the ladies, as we prepare to spend quality time with our families, with our loved ones. Some of us are going to do it over Zoom. Some of us are going to do it in person. What is the one thing you would give as your take? So this is my take. So I want to hear everyone's take. Very briefly as we round up, what is your take of what is going to be important to you this holiday and in the coming year for your family? I know it's a big question, and I'm just throwing it out there, but I'd like to hear. So let me start with Tosi. I'm going to put Tosi on the spot a bit. Tosi, as we go into the holiday season, what would you be doing? What action would you be taking to prepare you, given all of the things we've talked about, to maintain your own personal, emotional, mental health, those around you? I know you're a pastor, so you think also not just yourself, your family, you also think of your members. So we're just going to go around and just very briefly, what is that one thing that you will be focusing on in this new season?
Okay, so pre-COVID, it was pouring of myself to the church and people we counsel and friends and family. And don't get me wrong, it's not an easy transition to change to do self-care like Lola talked about. But 2020 really hit me rough, with the loss of a loved one and realizing that mental health is very important. And because of our Christianity, we are used to saying it is well, 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 which it is indeed well. But there are things that are required to make sure it is well. The part that we play and the part that God plays. So now, if I keep saying it is well, but I don't do my part that God expects me to work on, then I'm just going to keep saying it is well, and it's really not well. So going into this Christmas season, reflecting the year of reflection for 2020 and going into the new year, I started focusing on my self-care. I stopped engaging in things that were not as necessary to raise my blood pressure. Focused on family, focused on making sure people are, making sure that I'm okay, my kids are okay, making sure that people around me are okay. So those were things that I decided to focus on, as opposed to lending my voice to so many things that just didn't need it to be. So doing serious reflection.
Thank you. I like that. And for those who are online on Facebook, on YouTube, please post. Let's see. Post on our page. Post in the comments. What are you taking away from 2020 that'll be different for you for 2021 to keep yourself? Well, I'd love to hear what Tutu thinks.
So for me, like Tosin said about reflection, this year has been a year of great reflection for me. And this year in particular is the first year in many years that I've been home with my family all through the year with no break.
Wow.
Yeah, so this has been and it's giving me time to actually pay attention to my children, especially my son. I mean, my daughter and I spend a lot of time, but my son, like, I've gotten to learn so much more about him. And so my take, going forward into the new year is to, learn more about my family, each member of my family, their uniqueness, appreciating them, spending time with them. I mean, my son, for example, it will be torture for him to sit down with me for an hour. This is a child that many years ago, he wouldn't want to leave me. But right now, he just wants to be by himself. So anytime he comes to me and maybe spends 15 minutes or whatever, it's really, really cherished. And I really, really appreciate, that quality. So moving forward is getting to know my family more, appreciate each person. This week, I was just reflecting on my husband, and, I was posting some pictures and people were asking me, is it your anniversary? Some people were like, congratulations. But honestly, I was just thankful. I was reflecting and I was just thankful. Sometimes you have the tendency to just focus on what they are not doing right. Oh, this man, what he's not doing right. These children, I keep telling you this. But for once, I'm actually looking at, the unique things these children bring into my life. So moving forward is just being thankful for them that, despite everything going on, I still have these people in my life.
Thank you. Wow. I love that. Okay, Lola.
So I've already started practicing self-care. I made up my mind a couple of months ago when my job was trying to overdo that I needed to, put them aside for a minute. And so, yesterday I went, my daughter, my oldest one, is home from uni. And so we went and did our nails together. And I have a quick funny story about that. Usually when I do my nails, I get it short and I get neutral color because I speak a lot with my hands. And yesterday, the lady, and my daughter convinced me that I should do it long and multicolor and everything. And, they're like, do something different, do something different. And I was like, okay, they pumped me up so much. And, I did it. It's very out of character for me. I go home and they were like, oh, your husband is going to want to marry you all over again. Look how beautiful it is. I go home and I showed my my darling husband my hands. He looked at me, he looked at the hands, and he told me that, are you going through midlife crisis? It's like, that's how you know you've been married for a while, So I've already started practicing self-care and I'm hoping to continue that through the year. But one of the things I really also want to do, because I have a tendency not to do it as much, my mom always says they can't put me on emergency contact because I'm hard to reach and I don't, I'm not very communicative. I'm hoping that I can just do more of telling people how much I love them, making sure they know how much I love them and communicating that to them. Reaching out and talking to, because, we don't know what the year will bring, what the day will bring. You don't know how long you have someone for. And so you just want to make sure that there are no regrets, that they know you are important to them. So that's my goal for 2021 and beyond.
I know we're running low, so bear with us. I'll first of all take Buki Faye and then I'll round up. So maybe in 1 minute, Buki, what would be your quick takeaway?
A quick takeaway, at least for this season, one thing COVID taught me was I'm thankful that we as a family unit, we actually like ourselves. So it made the whole COVID period so much more, so enjoyable. I had to stop myself at some point to realize not everyone is experiencing this. Not everyone is going, experiencing this the same way you are. So I'm totally, totally grateful for that. So on that, I'm just trying to extend that some more. But I think for me in 2021, one thing that has become a little apparent for me is that I focused a lot over the last few years. I focused on family. I focused on, getting the children, because like Tutu, I have a traveling husband. So it's like I'm the one all do all, I don't know that I paid attention to the details, but I did everything. Right. But I didn't really do anything for myself from a career standpoint. Let's put it that way. So I think that as the children are transitioning now, they're going into uni. My last one will be going off next year. My thing is, I want my children to be able to look up to me continually as a role model. And of course, like I was saying earlier, I feel like intellectually, they're caught up already. Don't say they're catching up. They have caught up. So I need to, continually improve myself so that I can stay on par with them or even hopefully above them at all times so that they can continually look up to me. So I don't want to take that for granted, and continue to show the love, that I can. And maybe now that Lola has said it, I'll try to be more reachable. Maybe I should put that on my list. I'm more communicative, but yeah. So
Thank you. Wow. And of course, from Faye. Thanks, Vicky.
I've heard everything everyone has said. For me, and I was just talking to my husband about this earlier today, 2020 has been interesting. I mean, I've actually lived in 3 different countries this year, the year that nobody went anywhere. I still ended up all over the place. And God has just been faithful. So really, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to God for everything. And I really want to take some time to slow down. Like Buki said, I've been reading my son's college essays, and I'm really intrigued about the man he has become, right before me. I really want to slow down and just hear what the people around me are saying, because there's so much going on. I'm so busy. I want to hear, what my children are saying. I remember my husband saying a long time ago, when Tammy, my oldest, was a baby, that, these kids, they're going to grow up and leave us. So we need to make sure that we're there for each other. And it seemed so far. I mean, it seemed like what kind of a thing is this man saying? But now we're here. And like Buki said, thank God we like each other. So I'm grateful, but I really do want to slow down in 2021 and smell the roses and just enjoy the time that God has given us on this earth, because like life is precious. That is what 2020 has taught me.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. You guys, even just hearing you is making me think. It's amazing. First of all, this has just been a phenomenal experience. Let me start off by saying I'm so thankful for you guys. A lot of people, first of all, let me also thank our audience. Just so I can let you know, I was telling them, I'm going to confess, I don't know how to keep things secret. We had a very busy meeting this morning, and I said to them this week, I said, the ladies were waiting for me. There was so much I should have done. I didn't get done. Our promos were not done on time. I said, please join today's session so they'll know that people join. And the ladies from EPR have been on fire. I mean, thank you guys. They've been engaged. They've been encouraging, but I'm also seeing good friends joining in, and to just have this as the last episode, I want to say I am thankful. I'm reflective because we have these conversations. We've had it for a long time. 2 years ago, we thought about doing this. We're all in different spaces in our lives. Last year, we're ready to go on, and then we realized, oops, we're not yet ready, And this year, the year of COVID, we kicked this off. And for me, I'm thankful for my friends here. I'm thankful for this sisterhood. I'm thankful that, in the midst of COVID, I share with a lot of the ladies, every woman here, I am privileged to know when, either we all met shortly after marriage, but almost everyone I knew when they had their first child, and most of these kids are going to college. So for me, I'm thankful that in life, I can have relationships like this that are so beautiful. And this is just a reflection of some of the relationships, so I'm taking that away, that truly the years of raising children, of going to work, and being a part of a vibrant community of a local church has brought us into a place where there's sisterhood, there's strength. It's reminding me that, 2020 reminded me that relationships are beautiful, relationships are powerful. And I think I'm one person that is really thankful from my relationships with my family, my husband, my children, my sisters in EPR, my sisters, my blood sisters, my siblings, so I have so many things to be thankful for. My girlfriends here, my girlfriends in the UK, God is really good. And what am I taking away? I think I'm realizing that, there's a time there's a time and season for everything. It's truly a time and season for everything. And I'm learning to be kind to myself and to other people. It's not always easy, but I'm learning to be kind to myself. I can be such a go-getter that I put a lot of pressure on myself at times, on the people around me. And 2020 really helped me appreciate grace. I really was thankful to God. I really was thankful to the fact that, Buki said something that, to have gone through a year like this and for it to have been something of joy is not normal. It was a year where I was forced to take it easy, and I'm grateful to God. It was a year where the Lord helped us, build up, strengthen relationships, and I want to take that forward. That's my desire, that I don't forget the things I learned in 2020, and that the new normal, what I've learned in the new normal is to trust God more. I learned that the race is not really to the swift, to the one who knows how to run or do things. It is the grace of God, and to lean more on that grace and to build that relationship. And so thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for everyone who joined us. We hadn't, for some reason, our streaming service had been detached from Facebook. And about 6 minutes, Lola said, "Are we still streaming on Facebook?" I said, "Let me see if we can get that to work." And it's amazing the number of women that have stumbled on today's show. And we want to thank you. And we look forward. Today is the last of season 1 of MyTake. Woohoo! We decided to do this, and it's gone pretty well. We were on our best behavior. Let me just let you know. Just before the show started, a topic came up. We were ready to go at it, and we told ourselves, please, let's just do the show. So season 2, you're going to see a bit more of our actual banter, because we're going to be having some conversations. Some people already said, the day you have that show, I'm not going to be there. We will all be there. We will discuss, we will talk about things. But I think the one thing that we really want to do with MyTake, we want to push the status quo. We want to demand change, like we said about today's topic. We really need to address what is not right. We have a lot of conversations. We've kept it nice and pretty. Most of us are ministers or married to ministers. But I feel that we are best positioned to really start to deal with some issues and bring truth and light to the body of Christ. And so thank you so much. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Watch this space for season 2. It's going to be different. We're going to have more people join us as guests, unexpected people you would not have imagined will be coming to our hot seat. So watch this space. But from all of us here, I know some of us we've muted, so we should all unmute and say a big thank you. We love you, our audience. Please feel free to watch our previous episodes over the holidays when you're in the kitchen, just listening to some of the things we've talked about. We've had quite a fun time. I know this is some people's first time of being here, but thank you very much for being a part of MyTake. And from between our next season 2, stay well, keep well. The Lord will keep all of us. Have a beautiful holiday season. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Thank you. And thank you, Buki, for joining us.
It was great having you.
Sister of life. Sister of life, everyone.
Bye. Sister of life. Sister of life.
Bye.